Welcome to another episode of You Learn, You Turn. Today we have one of our own Youturn Health coaches on today. Her name is Leigh Huckins. Leigh, how are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Doing well, just trying to get through the holidays right now. December is a tricky month for people in recovery. All the holidays are tricky for people in recovery. And so I thought I'd bring you on today to talk a little bit about some tips and tricks that you've learned over your 10 years of being in recovery and that I've learned over my years in recovery because I remember coming home from treatment. I think it was like December 17th or 18th, 17 years ago, and was thrown right into the fray of I had a stack of Christmas invitations, which I'm grateful that I was included on, but didn't really know how to navigate not drinking. Do I tell people? Can I be around alcohol? Can I not? So I thought I'd bring you on as a coach and as a person in long term recovery to kind of help us help people that are listening gain some power over the situations that they're going to be headed into for the holiday season, whether it's being with family who doesn't get along or being around alcohol or whatever. So welcome, Leigh. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got to Youturn Health.
Thank you for having me. And I am a person in long-term recovery. I've been with Youturn since June of this year. I am the team lead for our SUD team, and it's super exciting. I love it. And I can remember those first few years being scared to death because you talked about it in meetings. Everybody was talking about it, and it was, what do you do? I feel like the anticipation of it was
Yeah.
almost scarier than the actual walking through it. Um, but something that has always stuck out with me is having a plan. I needed a plan. I'm a planner to begin with, but just to know what I was going to do if something went wrong, if I felt super uncomfortable, if I had to get out of a situation, I had to have a plan and a person to talk to. Knowing that I had a coach, I had a recovery coach in early recovery. Um, could I talk to them? Were they available? If they weren't available, who could I talk to? I needed to have somebody on speed dial. And I remember my first Thanksgiving. I got up and left in the middle of Thanksgiving because it was so uncomfortable. And I went and hung out with people in recovery.
Oh, I think that's wonderful. So when you say a plan, I know there's some things that I do before I leave to go anywhere. And I have some years of not drinking under my belt, but I still get the butterflies because just, I don't know if it's social anxiety. I don't know if it's being around alcohol. But when I have to go to these big events like tonight, I know I have some things in place. Do you want to tell some things you have in place or do you want me to go for it?
Um, I can. And my first thing is I like to drive wherever I'm going. I like
Amen.
to have my car.
Yeah.
And that is my A1 number one is I drive myself wherever I'm going. Um, I I usually don't go by myself. I like to have somebody with me that is um because I do go to like I have a party I'm going to go to next week and there's going to be alcohol there, but I'm going to go with my husband who's in recovery. So we'll go
Nice.
together. And so that's kind of nice. I have a sidekick that's in recovery as well to always go to things with.
Hmm.
But having that and then kind of like a plan if I do need to get out, like, oh, well, I have kids, the babysitter just called, I got to go. Something that I can say if I need to go. And my husband and I will have kind of like a word, or we might text each other or something like, "So I need to go." And we just know that the other person, we have to go. And we
Yeah.
respect that about each other.
So, what do you do? So, I'm the same way. I definitely like to have a car to escape. I always have in the back of my mind a little excuse. And then another thing I like to do is if I know they're not going to be serving anything but water and alcohol, I usually take a LaCroix, one of those Pop Tropica. I don't even know how to pronounce it. Those new waters. I put a fancy water in my handbag, and I usually take that to drink there so that I'm not empty handed. It always helps to have something in your hand. That way, people don't come up and continually ask you, "Can I get you a drink?" Um,
Yep. Yep.
but I love the fact that you said going with someone in recovery. I too am married to someone in recovery, but I swear we have completely different takes on big social events. He actually loves them, does not drinking does not bother him. But I think I was, as an emotional drinker, I was more tied to the way it made me feel socially. So being an introvert by nature, I still get real nervous going to these things, and it really helps me to have something in my hand. And also, Leigh, to know that I don't have to stay. If the party's from 8 to 10, I can go at 8:30 and leave at 9. There's no one that says you have to stay the entirety of the party. Um, Another thing I learned in recovery was you're just not that important, meaning no one's going to miss you. Like, the party will go on. And if you don't feel right about the party or about the event, don't go. Another
Mhm.
thing I had to do was set boundaries with my family. And a lot of our family drinks a lot. There's a lot of alcohol involved Christmas and Thanksgiving. And the first few Christmases, we did something with just our tiny immediate family. And at first, there were a lot of hurt feelings, and we don't understand. Y'all are the one with the problem, not us. So why do we have to be punished? Why are y'all avoiding us? And you know what? We just had to sort of grow a thick skin and not let that get to us and just let it go. And it took a few years for people in our family to understand that it wasn't them, that it was us, and that we just needed some time to get our feet under us. So, um, tell me about that, about family and how you navigate that.
My very first year in recovery um, for the holidays, it was just me and my parents for Christmas. We actually didn't even we just made it another day. We didn't even
Yeah.
put up a Christmas tree here. And we each donated to a nonprofit, and that's what we did. We didn't do presents. We wanted it
Wow.
just to be another day. It wasn't a big deal. And then in the evening, we had a few because we have a small family to begin with, but we just had a few friends over and we actually had steak. You know, Christmas, you think of the holiday meals and stuff. So we did the opposite. We grilled steaks
I
and
love
just
that.
it was
Yeah.
like a night, you know. And what I did the next few years after that was I held myself accountable by signing up to chair meetings on holidays because I was single at the time. When I was in early recovery, I was single. And so no one wanted to chair the meetings because a lot of people had families and they have children and things like that, which I have now. But so I knew I had to be there to open the doors to have a meeting. And
Yeah.
so gave me a sense of responsibility. And, you know, I had a purpose that day in recovery. And because I was thinking about this yesterday before we were getting on the call, and I was like, I didn't even really appreciate that as much as I do now. Um,
Yeah.
Doing those meetings, you know, I mean, I did that for quite a few years in early recovery. So,
So what Lee's talking about, if you're not familiar with recovery support meetings, 12-step meetings, they have these things called alkathons. And it's literally like 24 hours a day on Christmas Day, Thanksgiving, so that and it's manned 24 hours a day so that there's always someone there at that place. So if you're having a hard time, you feel like taking a drink, you can go there and get support. And I think that is such a wonderful thing. And if you don't have like a 12-step recovery support group, and you just have someone that has your back in recovery, like, Leigh and I are married to people in recovery, so we have that every day. But if you don't, just find one person to call. One person. If it's not your coach, if it's not your sponsor, just find someone else in recovery that you can say, "Hey, I'm squirmy. I feel like I need a drink today." That kind of thing. Someone to talk to. Um, and, having a meeting to chair would definitely, what's your family going to say to that if you say you can't come? People
Yeah.
that really love you want to support your recovery. And people that don't really, you don't need them in your life anyway. I mean, that's kind of
That's
where I am.
like
What else?
they
Go ahead.
my parents, the first, because I moved when I first got into recovery, I lived in their house for about a year or so. And they removed all the alcohol from their house just for that
Wow, that's so
time.
nice.
So it just wasn't even there, which was nice too. They were very mindful and supportive of me in those first few years for sure.
What do you say to people, Leigh, if you're at a holiday party and they say, "Why aren't you drinking? Where's your drink?" What do you say to them? I always have something to say to that as well. I think that's smart because they're going to be those jerks.
Now I tell people I'm in recovery. It doesn't, I mean, I just say I'm in long-term recovery from substance use disorder. And then
Some
usually
people
it
can't
sparks
say that though.
a conversation.
Yeah.
I just say I'm not drinking. And I do feel like now, even if I look back over the last 10 years, I think now it's almost becoming even more socially acceptable not to drink. And I don't feel like I have to say anything. I just say I'm not drinking this evening. I know that I used to say I'm the designated driver.
That's a
I'm the
good one.
designated,
Yeah.
and so nobody's going to question that. They are
No,
not going to question you, designated driver. So I'm the designated driver tonight.
that's a good
And
one.
okay.
Yeah.
And um, so now I typically will say I'm in recovery, or I'll just say I'm not drinking this evening.
And, thinking back about like family members and them not understanding, and you were saying that you live with your parents and y'all stayed home, it is okay to say no to parties and to family over the holidays, especially if you're newly sober. And I know as a coach, you would probably tell your clients that, like, you can't, this is your one and only chance at staying this course. And if someone upsets you or in your family that you don't get along with, and you think that's going to mess with your peace and serenity, it's okay to say no for a few years. Like, this is your life, we hope forever. So, maybe could you give our listeners some tips and tricks and boundaries with family members?
Absolutely. And I do think that that is probably the hardest part with
Yeah.
working with people over the years. I think that people in early recovery, you don't even have to be in early recovery. People in general have a really hard time when it's family. They're like, but it's my
Yep.
family. And I think having a support group, so having, people that you can talk to, whether they're in, um, 12 step all recovery, or maybe you're a church group. And it doesn't, whatever, having other people to talk to about it, to say, you know what, I've been invited to this party and it makes me nervous to even think about going. So I know me now, if I'm nervous about, if I'm feeling kind of, just thinking about going, I need to look at that. Um,
Yeah.
but where it's really helpful to bounce that off of somebody else. So talking to your coach and saying, there's going to be drinking. And then being able to talk to your coach about, well, how do you feel about that? Are you going to be okay? And really talking that through before you get there. Cause that's the worst. It's just not just saying, God, I don't want to go, but I should go, and keeping it to yourself and then going. And then it's a nightmare,
Yeah. Yeah.
and being able to have a group to talk about it in a safe place where there's no judgment, whether that's with a coach or in a meeting, and saying how you really feel and talking through it, I think is so important.
Yeah.
Because people don't want to say no. You don't want to say no. I mean, you want
Yeah.
to, look at me, I'm in recovery now, or, you know, you do think that people are going to think other things when they really don't really care that much anyway, if you're there or not,
That's
probably.
right. Goes back to you. You're just not that important.
Yeah.
um,
Yep.
so let's see. What other tips and tricks do you have? I know that one of mine during early recovery, and this isn't so much even about the holidays, but like around cocktail time or around Christmas cocktail time, what are some of the things that you used to do or that you still do to sort of get out of that rut of, well, everyone else is drinking right now. What should I be doing? Is there anything that you can remember you did that helped you out of that? Because I have a few.
It's constantly doing something different to figure out what works. So like when I was in early recovery, I go over this a lot with people that I'm coaching, is getting out of that routine, because it can be a routine. 5 o'clock. I mean, people go and they go have a drink. Um, with other people, with groups of people. Even if you were to go have dinner, there's people drinking all around you. Um, what can I do that's different? So instead of where you might have gone to happy hour, now you start working out during that time,
Exactly.
or going to go to a meeting instead of um, going to the bar, going to the meeting, and then going and having dinner with people from the meeting, so you continue that on. Finding a new thing to do during
Hmm.
that time.
Hmm.
If I go home, if I knew that I could not just go home when there was something that I would have been doing, because then I
Yeah.
just go home and I sit there and I think about it,
Yeah.
and I think about it, and I think about the missing out, and I think about how much fun I had, and I don't think about the bad times. And the next thing I know, I'm going to be doing it. But if I'm occupying my time with something else, um,
Hmm.
and so I always encourage people, go try yoga. Well, I hate yoga, Leigh. I'm not good at that. Okay, well, let's try something else. Is figuring out what something else to take up that
Yeah.
time.
Even if it's a bath, or if you miss your girlfriends that you used to drink wine with, instead of having them over at 5, I did this with a couple of girls a few times and would have them over at 4. We would have
Mm,
coffee, tea, cookies, sweets, and would just gab for an hour. And then by that time, once you get over that hump of when you used to drink, then you're
mhm,
good.
mhm.
But I swear a
Yeah.
bath can do wonders. I haven't taken a bath in years, but when I was new to recovery, I took a bath every single night at 5 or 5:30. I would lock my door and I would read a magazine in the bath, and I would just, do something special for yourself. When you used to beat yourself up with alcohol, take that time to really pamper yourself. Um, these are all great, great things to think about this holiday season. I think the number one thing that we have been taught, especially as women, is to put everyone else first. But when you're newly sober and in recovery, you have to put yourself first. It's just something that you have to do in order to save your life. So
Yeah.
don't feel guilty about that. Just do it. Do whatever it takes. Um, but I think we've covered it. Do you have anything else you want to add about how to get through the
I will
holidays?
say something that you just said, and I didn't think about this. I did pamper myself a lot in early recovery. I used to get my
Yeah.
nails done. And so just doing something for yourself. So I did. I mean, I was just looking, I was like, "Oh, I haven't had my nails done in a long time now, but I should do that. But I used to go to the nail salon all the time. Just make yourself feel good.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Get yourself a nice pair of bedroom slippers. Um, Watch a little Netflix. Do whatever it takes to get yourself out of that icky feeling that you want to drink. And just know that Leigh is always here. There's meetings that are always here. Someone at Youturn Health can help you if you're having a hard time getting through the holiday season. They're hard. They can be lonely. They can be sad, but just know that there are people who've gone before you that have done it sober and it's been okay. And it does get easier. When you say that, Leigh, it gets easier every year.
Absolutely.
You
Yes.
learn how to
Yep.
navigate family, you learn how to navigate social situations. Take your own car, take your own drink, and be ready with an exit plan. Those are the top three that I think we both talked about.
Yes.
So,
Absolutely.
transportation, exit plan, and have your own drink. And if you don't feel good about it, don't go. There'll be another Christmas party. There'll be family. There'll be other relationships that you can have outside of your family if that doesn't work anymore. So, Leigh, I just want to say thank you so much to have you on today to talk about that. And thank you for everything you do as a coach at Youturn Health. And if anyone listening wants to learn more, just go to our website at youturnhealth.com. And we hope everybody has a happy and safe holiday season.